What you just said is one of the most insanely idiotic things I have ever heard.
What kind of ignorant shit is that?
At no point in your rambling, incoherent response were you even close to anything that could be considered a rational thought.
You idiot, you fool!
Hey, dummy!
This is the Ignorance is Blessed podcast.
Everyone in this room is now dumber for having listened to it.
Hey, idiots. It's me. I am reporting to you. That's how, I'm sure I've said that before, but I fucking snapped on Nate last night about having the news on all night. Because it was just only the fire coverage, which makes sense. It's a fucking huge, gigantic natural disaster. And what were they going to talk about other than the anticipation of the Trump sentencing, which, well, there you go. Guilty, but nothing happens to you because you're the president. So I don't know what to tell anyone except for maybe run for president. You know, you're thinking about living a life of crime. Consider politics as your way in to get out of guilt. That's just fucking crazy. We have a president-elect who's a convicted felon, but does it even matter when my entire city is burning to the ground? Jesus Christ. Listen, you guys, I don't even know what to say. I'm in a weird juxtaposed situation with the grief. I know multiple people who have lost everything. I am very fortunate at this point to live in mid-city, quite a few blocks south of Sunset, which that fire has since gone out, but I do have friends who had to, bolt for their life. We evacuated, we left, I guess. We weren't in an evacuation zone, but we left early Wednesday because the smoke was just out of control, and I am smoke sensitive. Go figure. Is there any type of weather? Because that bothers me. I had pneumonia several times as a baby, and it left permanent scarring on my lungs, and I just have always had trouble with smoke. Didn't stop my mom from chain smoking in a car with windows rolled up all the way to Alaska or in our childhood home. But, you know, we didn't know what we know now. So I think Nate thought I was being maybe a little dramatic because I panic. I'm neurotic. What's the worst case scenario? If you want to know the worst case scenario in any situation, ask me and I will find it. Honestly, that should have been the podcast I did where people just call in and go, here's what's going on with me. What's the worst thing that could happen? And like a psychic, I could pinpoint every terrible detail, I think, at this point. But he went out on our roof, which, man, I don't know if this is a man thing, just a human thing. I was like, please don't go up there. Please just look out the window and trust me. Scoping the situation, and then someone else told me, they were like, yeah, I went up on our roof to get a lay of the land. You're out there in the smoke, no mask. Everyone, I saw people on my Instagram reporting from their roofs and vantage points on their building, and it's like, I hopefully they were in masks, because I was like, at this point, that shit is Darwinism. Like, did no one read about what happened to the lungs of so many people, like, in the Twin Towers, in fire situations, over in Afghanistan in war zones, which, by the way, there are people, military people, who are now getting settlements from being over in Afghanistan, Iraq, the same time my mom was over there, but since she's a contract employee, I guess she's not eligible, which is pretty fucked up. She was working for the government, and she now has lung cancer, but that's neither here nor there. She keeps bringing it up as if we're all going to forget she smoked like 8 packs a day. Listen to me. Even in a time of crisis, the ADHD does not let up. But it's like, that shit's bad for you. It's bad for you. And when I say I'm in a juxtaposed position, what I mean is we headed south to San Diego. Nate had a client who was performing at one of the clubs that night. So he was able to chat with the club and get us their rate at a hotel. And it was a nice hotel. And then because he's got Amex Platinum, I do too. It's got a really high annual fee. But if you travel, if you are a big traveler, like for work, I hit the road a lot. That's the kind of lifestyle. Or, I mean, I guess if you're like super rich, but, you know, on the fence, if it was a great idea for me to open this card. But they do have a lot of perks that kind of come back and reimburse you to make up for the high annual fee. And when I was flying only Delta, before Delta fucking changed their policy on Amex Platinum and their lounge access overall, like Delta, in my opinion, fucked themselves. I used to have unlimited access to Delta Lounge, and I would fly only Delta. And then if you have an Amex Platinum, you can access the lounge 10 times, and that's it in a year. And I'm like, okay, well, that's not it for me. And now I fly American Airlines. Neither here nor there. First world problems. But anyways, there's this thing on the Amex Platinum where they have certain hotel collections, nicer hotels, where if you book a stay, I think it has to be like 2 nights or more, you get $200 back. And he found a hotel, a gorgeous hotel. And I guess because it's the holiday season just ended and it's off season, their rates are already low. And I guess we came down here before everyone decided to get out. So hopefully I wouldn't want to say like that they've gotten wise to it. You would think companies wouldn't price gouge and they'll just let the hotel fill up. But it's capitalism. I don't know. You don't know with companies if they'll go, oh, more people are coming, jack up the rates. They're desperate. Hopefully not. And I like to believe not for this hotel. But it was already lower rates than normal if it was their peak season. Buy 2 nights, get the third one free. Or stay 2 nights, get the third night free. So between that and the $200 off, I think we're spending like $160 total on 3 nights at literally a resort looking out into the bay. It's fucking seems so psychotic. Like this is not actually in my like real life budget, and I'm like looking off of a balcony into the sea being like, my life is falling apart. It's fucking insane. But I want to talk about like the fires are still raging. I think it's at the point I'm recording this, and I'm going to try to release it pretty much immediately after. Palisades fires over 20,000 acres burned. 8% containment. I'm pulling up Watch Duty. Great app, by the way. You may have already heard of it if you're following a bunch of LA people, because I think people have been shouting it out. Eaton Fire is now 3% contained. Okay, so that's more than zero. That's 13,000. That's almost 14,000 acres. And I saw this in the Hearst Fire, 37% contained, 771 acres. Kenneth Fire, no more forward progress, but it burned 1,000 acres. I saw this comparison of the size, and it was several tens of thousands of acres ago on the Palisades Fire, but apparently Manhattan is 17,000 acres. So more than Manhattan. We have the equivalent of 2 Manhattans have burned on the west and east side of Los Angeles. It's fucking horrifying. And with the winds and the minimal containment, I don't know how long this is going to go on. I don't know what we're going to do. We can't keep staying in this hotel we shouldn't be in now. It's like we got lucky. And now I'm like, oh, I have the Amex Platinum and it's the beginning of the year, so I still have my $200. Maybe I should get on there and see if we can extend for a few days. My friend Audrey Stewart, who you may know if you follow me, she opened for me on a summer tour 2 years ago. I love her. We actually were supposed to record Wednesday. And I called her. I was like, hey, we're going to head out. And she's like, oh, you guys are leaving? And I was like, yeah, we're not in an evacuation zone. It's just the smoke. And we want to get on the road before like other people get the same idea. And I got to tell you, I've driven to San Diego for shows several times in my life. The quickest drive ever. No one had this idea when we'd had it. Like, I can't believe it. That's not a brag. That's like, I can't believe we're the only ones leaving. I can't believe other people haven't fucking hit the goddamn road at this point. And she's like, all right, well, we're just going to keep monitoring it. She lives right up by Runyon Canyon. And if you followed the fires really closely, you know that later that night, a fire broke out in Runyon Canyon. And she had to. They didn't have time. I mean, they didn't have go bags packed. If you think I'm ADHD, I mean, Audrey had a whole podcast about ADHD. And let me tell you, it's not around anymore because she has ADHD and couldn't. I mean, you know how this one comes in waves. Fucking, she didn't have a go bag packed. And there was no, like, getting it at that point. She and her boyfriend Sam grabbed their 2 cats and headed the fuck out. And luckily, that fire's gone out, and to my knowledge, her place is okay. But just so fucking scary that I thought, looking at that fire, I was like, her place is gonna go, the Comedy Store's gonna go, the Laugh Factory's gonna go. And I literally was like, every reason I'm in Los Angeles is about to be burned to the ground. And thankfully, they've put that fire out, but man, that has really sent me into a personal fucking what am I doing in Los Angeles spiral. And that's been a difficult road to navigate with Nate because I'm panicking in a hotel room with him and he's trying to be comforting and also, I don't know. I don't want to make this about me. That's just insight into like how I'm feeling. Is literally I put into ChatGPT like these questions of what are the best cities to live in for comedy, and I'm not going to go into detail about that now, but can somebody in the Facebook group remind me to do a more in-depth coverage? I think I'd like to do a video of that eventually. God willing, these fucking universe willing, whatever the fuck, science willing, these fires go out and we can start to rebuild in Los Angeles. Because at this point, I don't know. I feel like, okay, to me, watching this happen and then going, we will rebuild. Like people go, the resilience, the emotional strength of people who say things like that. Yeah, sure. Absolute emotional fortitude to go, a fire is not going to, it's not about the possessions. It's yeah. Okay. You're right. You do find out very quickly. I grabbed important documents. I grabbed Moki's 2 favorite toys and a suitcase with 4 days worth of clothes. And what I realized is, and I grabbed my grandma's jewelry that was left to me that I honestly forgot I had. It was mixed in with where I keep a little stash of cash and my passport. And I was like, oh yeah, and I forgot there were 2 rings in there. I remembered one that was just like a cartoonish amount of little gems. It was like one slightly bigger gem and then a bunch of little ones for like each of the kids, I think. But there were 8 kids and there were 10 gems, so I don't know. But then there was this really cute one that was like I don't know. I don't want to say pear-shaped. That's not the right. It was a long emerald cut. I don't know what the fuck it is. It was oblong. And I was like, oh, this is actually really pretty, which was just a dumb. And I put on 1 pair of earrings and then I was like, what? Who am I? And Smokey, an old wealthy woman on the Titanic putting on earrings. But I was like, okay, well, I like these. I wear them on stage. It'd be nice to keep a pair in case my whole building goes. And then that was it. Like, and I'm someone who constantly talks about having too much stuff, but today, because Nate and I are spitballing ideas of like, well, if we were to go somewhere else, where would we go? Even though he is hardcore dead set on he loves Los Angeles. He's like, well, how many if you had to get rid of things, like what would you want to keep? And I was like, I grabbed everything that like I need. Granted, there are outfits I would miss. I didn't get any of my cute, cool outfits. I grabbed some t-shirts and jeans. I should have brought a jacket for colder weather because I didn't know San Diego would get as chilly as it does at night. But yeah, I guess turns out, I mean, I was packing with the mindset of like, who knows what's going to burn in this city. And it turns out like possessions aren't that big of as big of a deal to me as I would have thought they were, but that's easy for me to say when my places in mid-city and right now hasn't, it's easier to I'm sure I'd feel different were I in a home in the Palisades or Altadena. Of course, if I was in a home in the Palisades, I'd have a lot nicer stuff to lose. The point is, and what I really want to say, is this still recording? Yeah. Okay. I think it is. Only time will tell. I'm not going to stop and restart because that's a whole fucking nightmare. Here's some things I realized about people watching the news and how they will reach out to people that are in an area affected by the news that I think is important to keep in mind. And it was eye-opening for me as someone who will constantly reach out to my friends in like hurricane zones. You don't need to reiterate the terrible facts that the news is telling you to a person who's currently going through it. They know. And also, if it's one fact they don't know, now's not the time to pile that on. I can't, the amount of people going, they're saying the winds are very bad. The winds are going to make it worse. This is unprecedented. And it's like, yeah, no shit. I don't need you texting me that. And also, maybe I'm alone in this. And maybe I'm fucked up. But like, I really don't need people who are nowhere near me, nowhere involved in what's currently going on, not in Los Angeles experiencing the same thing, to keep going, God, it's just so sad. I just can't even imagine. That's fine that you feel that way. That doesn't, of course. The person who is actively unsure if they're going to have a home to go to, actively unsure when this is going to stop, if the air will ever be reasonably breathable, when they can go home safely, doesn't need to also bear the weight of your emotions. And I made the mistake on Threads because I saw a bunch of people going, everyone saying Californians deserve this, should be ashamed. But that's all I saw. And in retrospect, I realized I was lucky to have an algorithm that only showed me that side. I was like, are we just getting mad at an imaginary person who is saying this? I said something about it on Threads. Like, I see a ton of people going, it's unbelievable how many people could just shit on Californians and say we deserve this and we had it coming. But then I see 0 people actually doing that. And of course, in writing that, boy, did that change my algorithm. And I had people come in and start saying, and look, I know a lot of people have this like eat the rich mentality. I'm not the rich. And there's a lot of people. There's a lot more people in California who are not the rich than are the rich. There's a reason we refer to the ultra elite as the 1%. And I'm not going to explain how percentages work. There are a ton of people who are barely getting by in Los Angeles. There are a lot of people in pretty affluent neighborhoods whose family was there generations ago, and they were holding on to a house that would have sold for millions. That, like, there's no way they would afford to be in that neighborhood if they had to come in now, but because the house has stayed in their family, they've managed to remain there, and now that's gone. Now, that's gone. And the amount of insurance companies who I'm reading earlier this year just stopped having fire coverage, which is fucking insane. I just don't understand. I don't understand insurance, truly, and how you can suddenly drop it. It's like, if you don't want to start new policies, sure. Someone who's been paying you for years, that you could just drop their insurance, their fire coverage, is fucking insane. And I hope the CEOs of every single home insurance company that did that, I hope they're sweating. I hope they haven't slept at night thinking about thinking about the United Healthcare CEO. I hope they're fucking sitting there going, I hope not a fucking crazy person. I hope they have at least 10% of the stress that every person who just lost their home has, because that's fucking crazy. And I don't know if that's true, if people just have lost fire coverage, I don't know what do they even do? You just have nothing? Do you get nothing? And now, I mean, there have been pop-up arsonists. I think the Kenneth fire was one of them. People in Woodland Hills, citizens in a neighborhood detained a guy who started a fire or tried to start a fire, and the cops came and arrested him. But now there's speculation, and I don't know what's real. You know, I'll say this. The weather conditions in California were the absolute best isn't the right. They were the best for something like this to happen. It was the worst possible scenario in terms of preventing fire. And there had been warnings, red flag warning. This is terrible. This is extremely dangerous fire weather. And then a fire broke out. But there are now people saying that maybe they were all arsonist related, like that affluent neighborhoods are being targeted. I hope not. I don't believe that, but I do believe that when fires this big break out, there are going to be people who fucking psychopaths who try to get in on it. They're like, if we start a fire, lose our house, then we'll get insurance money. But will you? I don't understand. I will say this. The apartment I live in, it's the first time I've ever paid for renter's insurance because they require it, which I was pissed about when we moved in. I was like, fuck you, requiring me. And by the way, if you didn't have proof of renter's insurance the first month, they charged you a fine, or they automatically signed you up for like their company, which they're getting fucking kickbacks. And I was like, absolutely not. Not a fucking chance am I using the company you recommend. You're not getting more money from me, Graystar, you fuck bags. They charge the place I live is way too expensive. Of course it is. It's fucking LA. But like, I don't know. Just send people love. And, thank God. I mean, our firefighters are doing the best they can. They ran out of eyes. That's the thing, is that like, I don't know what's real and what's not. And especially watching TV news, I'm like, I don't know what spin they're putting on this. I've seen several copies of the letter of the person in charge of the fire department writing to Karen Bass, our mayor, saying her cutting the budget would have dire consequences. And I was already mad reading about how much she cut the budget. And Nate was like, well, you have to think relatively, like, what was the original budget? And, I saw someone on the news going, yes, but we don't know if this amount cut has anything to do with their ability to respond, and fight fires. It could have gone somewhere else in the LAFD, but then that letter started surfacing. That's like, this will have consequences. But then to find out that the budget for the fire department was cut, and so that more money could go to the police department? For what? For what? Because let me tell you, I got hit by a drunk driver last fucking month. Police couldn't be bothered to show up. But now we don't have enough money for fire. There's inmates fighting fires. People from prison. Do they get I have done no research. Obviously, the podcast. When have I ever done research before I start spouting off? But, I mean, do they get a sentence reduction? And do you negotiate that before you get out there? Like, what do we fucking... I'm supposed to be like, thank God. We're supposed to rely on people who have potentially been fucked over by the system. That's who's fighting some of these fires, is someone who has consistently been, who knows? I mean, we know how unfair the justice system can be. There's stories all the time of people being wrongfully accused. And like, they're out there fighting, they could just fucking bolt. I mean, I can't imagine there's like a chain gang. And also, if part of them fighting fires is that you have to have police out there making sure they stay, then that's a fucking waste of resources. All of this to say, I just really wanted to check in and let everyone know I am personally, physically okay. And I believe, barring a crazy circumstance, which this is already a crazy circumstance, but it feels like lightning would have to strike a third time, so to speak, for my place to be in danger. And it's not it's not right next to any like brush. You know, I'm not right up against a park, so that maybe heightens the odds of safety. I think my apartment will be fine. But it's just so fucking sad. It's so sad. I mean, I watched Pete Lee on The Tonight Show doing comedy, and he's lost everything. To know multiple people who have lost everything when Monday, the roller coaster with which life is happening is crazy. On, I think it was Tuesday, I had my first in-person, this is what's crazy. So Tuesday morning, I got a call back for an audition for a commercial. It was my first ever. I've been auditioning off and on. They come in waves. But I've been auditioning for commercials for 15 years. And I had my first ever callback Tuesday morning. It was an in-person callback too. From my first in-person audition since the pandemic. Which really made me think like, man, if I can just get in a room, I'm now confident enough to like not be nervous and whatever. And it was a great audition. It was a group audition. They kept us in the room. They were giving us notes. They really liked us. They had us step out. Then they brought us all back in, had us read the line because it's, you know, a variety of who could play what part, you know. So I was like, wow, that was good. I wasn't like booked it, but it was like, that was a good experience. I feel like I did a good job. And as I'm leaving, I got the notification about the Palisades fire. And at the time, because it's LA, because we have fires all the time, I went, bummer. Not thinking, oh, the winds, whatever. I mean, immediately after that, I was like, oh, they said that the winds are, I hope they fucking nip this thing in the bud. But, you know, that can seem, even in LA, like the Malibu fires, when you hear like some, you know, it can still seem so foreign. Like from Mid-City to Palisades, it's like I might as well be wherever you guys are listening, you know, normally. When it's like a little fire breaks out. I go, that sucks. Hope it doesn't get to the houses. Hope they get it quick. I went in to a little strip mall to get a Diet Coke on my drive home. I was like, you know what? I had a good audition. I can get myself a little treat. I hadn't had a Diet Coke in a minute. I came out and I looked up at the sky. I sent Nate a picture and I was like, oh fuck, this fire's pretty fucking wild. No pun intended. And then I was like, better get out of the west side. I wasn't like, I'm going to catch fire. I was like, I better get out of here. The smoke is probably going to get pretty rough for a little bit. And that night, I opened for my friend Jeff Arcuri. He had asked me to come to an opening set for his sold-out theater show. 2,500 people at the Wiltern. So, first in-person callback that I had a great experience. Got to open a beautiful theater show. Had a great set. Got to see my friend who I started with. We like met at a festival. There was a bunch of us sharing a hotel room. People were sleeping on mats on the floor. I was on a pull-out couch. At the time, Jeff was working a day job where he, like, ironically, sold people, I think, car insurance, not home insurance, but he was, like, selling people insurance. So he was on, like, a headset trying to get us to be quiet as we're, like, doing this festival in Indiana. And I just, like, I knew one guy, my friend, I think Harry, who lived in LA but was from the Midwest. So he's like, oh, yeah, I got in. We're going to stay here. You want to crash with us? Whatever. So that's how I got introduced to him. And we've just been, like, buds ever since. So watching him absolutely explode has been so fucking cool. Especially because he's just done it with stand-up. He works hard. And it's like, oh, thank God. Like, the cream can rise. You know what I mean? Like, people can just break through being funny and not being an industry darling and not being, you know, the person that they try to elevate. Because that's a thing. To then, like, waking up Wednesday morning and going, oh, the fires are nowhere near out. There's a new fire. The city is burning. It's reached houses. People have lost everything. We have to get out of here. It's just a fucking mindfuck. So just send people love if you have the resources to, you know, donate to one of the mutual aids, one of the, you know, mini fundraisers or or whatever. Obviously, there's so many of those at all times. It's fucking crazy that we can live in a country with some of the wealthiest people and still people are like doing GoFundMe's and shit. But then it's like also, how many people in this were like only theoretically wealthy because of the equity of their home and now they have nothing? I don't know. I'm here. I'm in San Diego until at least Sunday. I had planned to record 2 more episodes with friends this week. That didn't happen. So I do have one I can edit. I hate to already fucking fall off the wagon with consistency. I'll do my best to get my Justin Clark episode out Monday just to stay consistent. Know that was recorded before any of the fires. Before shit hit the fucking fan. And then we'll see. If there's a gap, you know why. I'll try to at least do these end of week check-ins. And I'll try to be funnier in the other ones. This is fucking... I just had to say something. Anyways, I appreciate you guys. I hope wherever you are, you're safe, your family's safe. And I hope they get this all sorted soon. All right. There's nothing left to say. Check out the YouTube for funnier stuff. Check out my YouTube. It's linked in the show notes. I'm plugging things. The episode with Matt Jones that came out this week, right before everything hit the fan, I wanted to do more clips, but now I'm not in the mood to make funny clips. And also, it seems absolutely psychotic to be like, here's us being funny. But if you haven't had the chance to watch on YouTube, as hilarious as it probably was with audio, his face is, he is a physical comic to another level. He's so silly. So if you're looking for something to make you laugh, give you the sillies, get over there. And check that out. Yeah. Feel free to post silly links to silly shit, silly memes, whatever in the group, Idiots on Facebook. Thank you, Moki. Moki's here with me, and she just leaned on my chest. She knows I'm stressed. We love you, idiots, and we will see you soon, and hopefully brighter, sillier, funnier days ahead. Till next time.